So let me just set that up. And away we will go. Okay, hello, welcome to the MasterHeart Visionary Book Fair. I'm Dr. Kara Gubbins, and I'm a professional animal communicator, as well as the best-selling author of 7 books all about animals, how we can grow and evolve spiritually by connecting with animals, and how we can become our best selves by following the guidance of animals. And today you're going to be hearing from 4 inspiring authors who are bringing their groundbreaking spiritual work to the world through their writings, teachings, and individual offerings as a way to fulfill their sacred soul contracts and aid in the planetary transformation that we are undergoing. So the 4 authors are Tammy Billups, author of Animal Soul Contracts, Judith Corvin Blackburn, author of Activating Your 5D Frequency, Carly Matamore, author of Sacred Messengers of Shamanic Africa, and Stephanie Redfeather, who is the author of The Evolutionary Empath. And these women have come together to create this event, not just to highlight their own individual work, but also that of their spiritual sisters, because they understand that to create new earth means modeling evolved ways of being in the world. And in this case, collaboration rather than competition. So I'm going to be interviewing each speaker individually about themselves and their book. And after we have completed that interview, we'll do a drawing for that author's book. And the contact information for each author will be posted in the chat. That's why we did a little chat warm-up before we started recording, so that if you are the winner, you will be able to directly contact that author and give them your mailing address so that you can receive their book. And just so you know, each book is also available to purchase on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, indiebound.org, and direct from the publisher, Inner Traditions. And if you sign up for the Inner Traditions emails, you get a % off coupon that you can use right away. So, and then at the end of the hour, we're going to be drawing for a grand prize, which will be all 4 books from all 4 authors. So we have an international crowd, but I have to say that the book drawings are for US residents only. Sorry, everybody else. And we're going to complete our time together by asking these luminaries about how each of us can step into our sacred purpose as they've done for themselves and as they're teaching other people. So I think that's going to be a really interesting roundtable discussion at the end. So be sure to stay through for the whole thing. I'm going to just take a moment to see if there's any questions before we jump in. And I'm not seeing anything, so I just want to say one more time, welcome to everybody, and let's get going. All right, so we're going to start. Oh, Judith, did you have something to say? Did I see a raised hand? No? Okay. All right, just double checking. So we are going to start with Tammy Billups, and Tammy is a sought after international healer of humans and animals. She's a certified interface therapist in bioenergetics, award-winning author of 2 best-selling books, a pioneer and global teacher on the animal-human sacred soul partnership. Moreover, she's the inventor of the new groundbreaking paradigm-shifting modality called tandem healings, which accelerates the healing of humans and the animals with whom they share a soul bond. Her books cover uncharted territory and reveal the higher purpose of our animal relationships to assist in our shared evolutionary journey. She is the author of Animal Soul Contracts. Welcome, Tammy. You're still muted.
Hello, I'm
there
here.
We go.
Thanks and all. Yeah, thank you, Kara.
It's so fun to be here with all these amazing authors. And as an animal lover, I'm always happy to start with talking about animals. And the first question that I have for you is, how did you become such a pioneer on this human-animal relationship front?
Yeah, well, it definitely evolved organically. 20 years ago, I started a practice, a holistic healing practice on how to work with people to help them heal their emotional wounds based on the experiences that I had had, these miraculous, experiences that I had had with my own personal healing. And it was just by chance that I thought, I wonder if this, if this will work on animals as well. And immediately, what was interesting to me was that everybody sees energy differently. And for me, I see kind of these emotional patterns patterns of protection around people around specific emotional wounds. And what was interesting to me was that when I began working with animals, or even trying to work with animals with my own and friends' pets, they held the same energetic patterns that their person did in every single instance. So if I was connecting with an animal that had unhealed abandonment, their person had unhealed abandonment. And I just found that fascinating. So then I went out and tried to find so many different resources on I can't be the only one that has identified this or has run across this. And I couldn't really find anything about this mirroring at this deep emotional wound level. And so I just began documenting everything and began working with people and their animals and then it kind of became this thing. And the books came out of that, where I identified the 7 different types of animal soul contracts as well. And it's more psycho-spiritual in nature. But it's just work that has beautifully evolved in a way that I never could have anticipated. It definitely was organic. And I love, love, love spending the healing time with the person and their animal simultaneously, because I have found that if a person is really an empath, or they're an introvert, or they're very private, then the animals are going to take on even a more important role for them to grow together. And then the books were birthed out of really my experiences and my practice of working, and my animals as well. I mean, my animals would be mirroring what I did all the time. They would take on some of my physical ailments, actually. I got asthma, my cat got asthma. And I thought, what are the coincidence of this, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. And you used a phrase that I think might be an interesting one to define for our audience, which is a soul contract. What is that?
Yeah, well, a soul contract is actually an agreement between our souls and our animal souls to evolve and mutually grow together. So it's actually a phrase that that I came up with that identifies these beautiful ways that we agree with our animals to grow and learn and transform.
And how does knowing about those soul contracts really help make our relationships with animals better, or help that healing to progress?
Yeah, it's a beautiful soul dance that we do with our animals, and knowing about the higher perspective that we have, about these soul contracts with animals allows us to reach into our pockets and say, oh, there's more here than what meets the eye. They're giving us a message in some way. It's not just about their behavior. There's something about me, that they might be representing or mirroring for me. So, and even in their physical issues, there's probably a soul contract at play. And once we can identify what these soul contracts are and get to the higher purpose, then sometimes our animal's behavior or their issue can just change on a dime as soon as we get the message for what they are trying to relay to us. It's really fascinating.
So, do you have an example of something where that awareness really shifted and things just changed really quickly?
Yeah, well, I'll give you the example of, I had a cat Sundance that was the loudest meower on the face of the earth. And anybody who says they have a cat that meows louder, I would beg to differ with you. She meowed so loud, and she would always get right in my face at my desk when I had a very important call. That was back when I was working in recruiting, and I'd have a conference call with European CEOs, and then there'd be this meow, 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 and I would put her, 3 doors down even, and close her in another room when I had a call, and I could still hear her. And the message, I'm like, what is the message here from her? And one day I went into meditation, And I immediately because my reaction to her was anger. I didn't like it when she did that. And there was nothing I could do to change it. And no matter what I tried. And sometimes when whatever emotion they're kind of pushing our button, whatever emotion comes up, there's a gift for us. So as soon as I got, where is my anger really? And it was about doing this work that I no longer love. And so I was just doing it for the financial support, which I needed to do. And I'm blessed and grateful to do that. But as soon as that awareness came in, I went, oh my gosh, she's doing that to tell me about my anger of still doing work that I don't love. And from that day forward, she never did it again, ever, ever.
That is so
She'd been doing it
dramatic.
for like 2 years straight. She'd been doing it. She never did it again.
Wow. So from that experience, is that how you developed the healing techniques that involve the person and the animal?
With the tandem healings, well, how that came about was I would frequently be called to work on people's animals to change a behavior or work on a physical issue. And they would change very quickly because the animals really do love the energy work. They get it, they lean into it, and they change pretty quickly. But then they would revert back. And so remember I said earlier how the people and the animal are mirroring healing specific emotional wounds together. So I thought, I wonder if the person was on board with healing the same emotional wound with the animal, would the results be longer lasting, maybe forever? Because frequently the animals would revert back. And I thought, got to try this and see. And so I started doing case studies. I did hundreds of them where the person was on board with, okay, I'm willing to look under the hood as well. And I think that's the hardest part, is that many people's like, fix my animal, but I don't want to have anything to do with me in there, right? So when a person is ready to look at what's under the hood for themselves and what their animal might be trying to tell them through their issues and through their behaviors, then boy, oh boy, did it last longer. I mean, I was hopeful for a positive result when I started the case studies, but I tried to remain very detached from the outcome and hope for the best. But more than not, the results were tremendous in helping the people heal long codependency relationships with not only their animals, but with people, or, betrayals, invasiveness. If the animal had invasiveness, when they signed up to heal these wounds together through the tandem healing sessions, it was really miraculous and heart-opening. I still love it when the people are ready to take that journey at a deeper level with their animals.
So you talk a lot about the higher purpose of why animals are in our lives. And I want to kind of look at the aspect of people going, oh my God, I've got diabetes, and then I gave my cat diabetes. Is that how that works?
I would say that to that point, that is the point that motivates me to keep working on myself for my own animals. Because yes, we're absolutely serving each other at a deeper level. We'll carry stuff for our animals. They'll carry stuff for us. And that's okay. That's why we're together. That's why all loved ones are together. And we have, there are different aspects where we're codependent for a while and we're not. We're helping serve those around us. But what we can do is we can work on ourselves. And the more we can raise our vibration and make good choices out of self-love for ourselves, then all beings, including, of course, our animals, are going to be definitely feeling the positive result of that.
And is that when you talk about getting to the higher purpose of why animals in our lives, is that part of it? And why is that so important?
Yeah, the higher purpose is important because it can induce a level of peace within your relationship with your animals faster than anything else. And I actually go into the different ways in animal soul contracts. I go into the different ways where how you can get in more alignment with your animal soul contracts, the soul contracts you have with them, so that it can be easier. But when you can find that higher purpose, like what I did with Sundance, I mean, she could have been meowing for years more, right? But instead, as soon as I got to that higher purpose of her actions, it stopped. She had a lot more peace. I had a lot more peace. And I put together a plan of action to get out of that role that no longer served my soul.
It sounds like there's really a paradigm shift that's possible for people. Have you noticed that people just see themselves and their relationships and their lives really differently after doing this work with you and their animals?
Yes. I mean, not all of them, but most of them, absolutely. Because some are going at a different pace, and it's all good. Everything unfolds as it should, and everyone should honor their soul's pace. But when I see people and animals sign up to look at these soul contracts together, how they're navigating and the underlying purpose of their ability to change both people, both the animal and the person, for their highest and best to bring more peace. I mean, nothing gets me more excited than seeing animals heal with their people and them having less fear and less issues and more love in their lives. And I know when I raised the hood and did a lot of my inner healing 20 years ago and started on that journey 21 years ago, my animals miraculously began to heal. And I had one cat that was a $10,000 kitty that had issue after issue after issue, but I was ill a lot and I was on medications a lot. So that's why I like to write about this, is because I could see the difference it can make in your life when you do work on yourself. And that doesn't mean that animals aren't going to have the issues that come up that need to be tended to. Of course they will. But the higher purpose of you being together, it will make it easier for you to navigate those waters, because then you aren't in as much fear and you're able to see the gifts, the tangible gifts from the relationship and from their behaviors.
I love that. Do you have any final words before we open things up for the drawing and the free giveaway of your book? Any final words you want to share with people about animal soul contracts, which I have right here?
Well, I will say that your animals are always in alignment to guide you to a new level of awareness. Your animals are always in alignment to guide you to a new level of awareness, and to lean into that. Lean into their love for you. Lean into their relationship and pull yourself up to the higher purpose to see what are they really trying to tell you.
Love that. I love that. Tammy, thank you so much for sharing this little window into the world of animal soul contracts and how we can all grow together. It's just so inspiring for me. And if anybody who is live on the call would like to be included in the drawing, we're going to use a random number generator, and we're going to get the number of people who are interested by having you type into the chat. So if you're interested in receiving Tammy's book, please type into the chat right now, animal. And that way we'll know that you live in the US and you don't have her book already and you want to get, pardon me?
I said just one time per person, one animal per person.
One animal per person, yes. Just put in animal. And then we have, I forgot who's doing it, but one of the other authors is going to do that. Carly's going to be doing that random generator number, and we'll come back to us with that. So we'll give you guys a couple of minutes to type that in. Do you have a question, Carly? You're muted.
Mute.
Sorry, just put animal in there and I will count that up and get that to you right away.
Perfect. Perfect. And while Carly is taking care of that, Tammy, can you share what's going on in your world, what programs you have coming up, and how people with you?
Yeah, so I have 2 masterclass series, one each based on each book: Soul Healing with Our Animal Companions, and then Animal Soul Contracts. And in the first quarter of next year, I'll be, and these are ones that I've done before, that one talks about the 5 core emotional wounds and how to recognize them within your animals, how to help them heal. And of course, it'll be, if you're dealing with me, you're dealing with both. So you're going to learn how to recognize those 5 core emotional wounds within yourself as well, because that will help you with your clients with animals and with yourself and your personal animals. So there's a discount code, and Judith might be, it's probably already in there somewhere, but she might copy and paste it in there again. After all the animals, I love that. So there will be a discount code just for this group if you want to attend either of those masterclass series. The first one starts in January. The second one starts in February. They're on one's 3 Thursday evenings. The second one's 4 Thursday evenings. And I can't wait to see you there. Go to my website for everything else, tammybillups.com.
So you guys, you can,
I have a winner.
we already have a winner. Awesome. Who's our winner, Carly?
Nancy Shoby.
Yay, Nancy. Woohoo. So Nancy,
Congratulations. Yeah.
your job now is to send an email to Tammy and let her know that you are the winner of her book, and give her your mailing address so she can mail it to you. And her email is right there in the chat. Congratulations, Nancy. All right, Nancy says she's so excited. Thanks. Awesome. Awesome. And I just want to say one more time, thank you, Tammy, not only for the work you do, but for being here today and inspiring us and giving us this insight into how we can be healing with our animals.
Thank you, Kara. Thanks to you as well.
You're welcome. So next up, you guys, we're going to keep moving right along here. And we are going to next get to learn more about Judith Corvin Blackburn. So Judith is an LCSW and also has a Doctor of Ministry. She's an award-winning author, internationally known teacher, transpersonal psychotherapist, and shamanic minister, who has been inspiring people to step into fuller inner authority, joy, and purpose for over 45 years. Her passion has been to guide and empower individuals to heal their wounds and reclaim their true soul nature so that collectively we can all transform planet Earth into the loving, peaceful, creative place it's meant to be. She's the author of 3 books: Journey to Wholeness, A Guide to Inner Healing, that was published in 1994. Her second book was Empowering the Spirit, A Process to Activate Your Soul Potential. That's from 2012. And her latest out just this year is called Activating Your 5D Frequency. Wait, I have it right here. Give you a visual. Activating Your 5D Frequency, a guidebook to the journey into higher dimensions. Welcome, Judith.
Oh, thank you, Kara. I'm excited to be here, and it was great to hear Tammy. I do want to say that was a good idea, Tammy, to put your information at the end of the chat too, because there's so much going on in the chat. So we'll try to remember for everybody.
Okay. And we'll have all of that information for everybody afterwards as well, but because the chat does move pretty quickly. So let's talk about the 5th dimension and what drew you to really dive into and explore our 5th dimensional nature, Judith?
Well, you know, Kara, it started with just being interested. Like a few decades ago, I started Empowering the Spirit in the late 90s. I started writing it. It took me a long time. But at that point, I was talking about the evolutionary leap. I hadn't been familiar with the idea of ascension. And at that point, I was talking about multidimensionality on what I call a horizontal axis, which means other lifetimes that our soul has gone through. And then I came upon Barbara Hand-Clow's Alchemy of 9 Dimensions. And I had read some of Barbara's work before, but this one just was paradigm shifting for me, because well, I knew we were much vaster, right, than this little 3D self. She created, or she brought forth, it's actually a very ancient system, this very elegant 9-dimensional system that immediately clicked for me. And right after I started reading it and integrating it, I started teaching it. But it didn't coalesce into the idea that we're moving into the 5th dimensional frequencies until, actually, I'm not sure when. I can't even remember the exact process. It was very organic. And as it came to me, it seemed like almost a roadmap, okay, for people, because even though I'm very intuitive and my work is very intuitive, I also really like to be able to connect with people's left brains to kind of give logical connections. And I felt like that 9-dimensional axis really did. And then I found out Plato taught it and the ancient Egyptians used it. And I think it really came from Atlantis. So obviously I'm excited about that. Um, the, the
Really
piece
cool.
the piece about fifth dimensional beings, which I think we're all moving into, first to humans and then perhaps more into a fifth dimensional being, is that it holds certain characteristics, and they are an open heart, unconditional love of self and others in that open-heartedness, where we're really being guided from the heart rather than the old paradigm of the head. Unbridled creativity, where whatever arises, there are numerous creative responses to, and numerous creative expression, whether through art or just some kind of ingenuity in whatever areas we're in. And interconnectedness or unity consciousness, understanding we are all part of each other. You know, one of the exciting things about these kinds of collaborations is we're all really holding and supporting each other and reflecting each other. And that goes so much beyond this to all creation, whether it's the animals or the plant world and the human world. So as you move into that frequency and those things open up for you, you can't help but not only be shifting yourself, but shifting ultimately our planet.
So do we all have a fifth dimension to us? Or?
Yes, that's a really good question. Absolutely. We actually hold it, we probably hold many more dimensions, but we hold at least the 9 dimensions of consciousness. So everybody has this. And when I do classes and events, what I always love to do is start off with a meditation that tunes people into feeling it. Because even though I can present it somewhat intellectually, it really connects when you can feel it. And you can feel the spaciousness and this open-heartedness and really joyfulness. Then you begin to notice, oh, wait, I'm in that frequency now, but maybe I wasn't earlier, and maybe I won't be in an hour, but now I have a sense of how to get back there. So
it's kind of like riding a bike. You feel it and then you go back to that feeling.
Right. It keeps being a resource for you. And, you know, as a therapist, I work a lot with helping people clear their emotional field. And I have a whole multidimensional perspective on that. But if you really can clear the old wounding and clear the old trauma, that opens portals for the frequency to get lighter and lighter, and gives us much broader and more frequent access to our 5D selves.
Wow. So it's really cool that we all have it. Maybe we've tapped into it unknowingly, but in your book, you really outline what it is and how to get there. And you walk everybody through those steps, right?
I do. And then I focus a lot on how we look at our social institutions and what that would look like from a 5D perspective. Because that's my passion. Probably the largest passion for me in this lifetime is to really help create new earth. And so we need to go beyond just getting that spiritual feeling and begin to come up with really practical ideas of what would a 5D planet look like? What would it be like when we understand the earth as a living being? And that we're interconnected with everything.
Sorry, my mind just went there. I was out there for a little bit.
Because, you know, that's when, well, the words that are coming is that's when we've accomplished our mission. Okay.
That like really brings tears to my eyes to hear you say those words. So why the book? If it's such a feeling, why the book? Why is that important?
Well, I hadn't intended to write it. This was really a magic thing. My husband and I were at the beach and I was there 3 days, and I had actually started reading the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, wrote a book called, I think it's called Big Love. And a friend of mine said, oh, you'll love this book. So I took it with me and I read a few chapters, and she's talking about how important it is to read if you have a big project. And I'm like, I don't have a project. And like the next day, this book started flying through me. And by the end, we were actually there ourselves for 2 weeks and then met friends, which included Carly, who will be at the end here. And so after when I got home after 3 weeks, the first chapter was done. I feel like it's really a book to support people in this journey. Again, because of my awareness of how the psyche works, how the emotional field works, I feel that I can provide a certain level of support. We don't just go wake up tomorrow and we're in 5D. It's a back and forth process. We have our egos that still, like to get in there. It's, and it's probably a lifelong process, but more and more and more, we can operate out of that frequency and our lives will reflect it. We'll be done with victim consciousness. We'll be living in a much more joyful way, right? So that's why the book, it really to support people's process.
So what is the primary message that you want people to get from reading this book?
Well, I think there are two. One, that we have been fifth dimensional beings. It is in our DNA. And there have been very ancient societies, including very ancient Egypt before the pharaohs, that really were operating out of this frequency, that we can use various techniques, and I give a lot of meditations as part of them, to begin to reactivate that. It's getting reactivated anyway, but to know it more consciously and to have some way to do it. And then the other messages so that we can create this harmonious, loving planet and stop this craziness of being cruel to each other and seeing each other as different. And, I won't list it. We can all list it for ourselves.
So activating our 5D frequency not only helps us and humanity, but it's also going to help the whole planet?
I certainly hope so. Okay. It certainly is part of my mission, okay, which is to do, we're all doing a little piece because we're all part of this interconnected web. So my piece includes that, to really begin to think about this 5D world.
And is there something that you can give us today, just a little taste of something that we each can do to kind of tap into or start to initiate that process of activating our own 5D frequencies?
Well, I think, okay, three things come to mind, and I'll be short. The first is to notice when we feel loving and expansive and realize that's when we're activating it. The second is to know we can always go into our hearts and really focus, if you can't bring that loving energy immediately, because we've all gone through wounding and shut down our hearts. So it's a process of reopening, to just call on higher guidance to help you with that. But the more we're in that heart space, again, the more spacious our frequency is. And now I can't remember the third thing, so I'll stop there.
2 out of 3 is good. That makes me really think that we're all doing that all the time. We're activating our 5D frequency, but we don't realize that that's what we're doing.
Yes. And I did remember the third thing, Kara, and I think it's important, which is to go gentle with ourselves. We're not machines, and we're going to go back and forth, but to really focus when we're there, to notice, to realize that we can have that more and more in our lives.
Oh, I love that. Any final words? Because we already have to switch over to your book giveaway, Judith. But do you have any final words to say? And actually, you know what? Before I ask you that, I'm going to give you just a moment, because I'm going to have everybody who is in the US and interested in being in the drawing for activating your 5D frequency, type 5D into the comments while Judith shares her final thoughts with us. So what are your final messages that you want to share with us today, Judith?
Well, again, twofold. First of all, it's really important not to bypass the emotional healing piece. I think for some spiritual people, it's really tempting because they get these waves. All right. But I don't believe we can fully and authentically hold these energies if we haven't done our emotional healing. And then the next one is kind of the last thing I said, which is to be gentle with ourselves. That loving self-love is as important as being able to love others. And activating that inner self-love will help you into 5D probably faster than anything else.
That I think is such a big challenge for most of us. It's easy to love our dog or our cat or other people, but I think the challenge is to love ourselves fully. And I love that that's the fast pass, right? Like that's the fast ticket to activating this 5D frequency. Thank you so much, Judith. I'm going to check in with Carly and see. Carly, do we have a winner yet or not? You are still muted.
I'm doing it. So we do.
Oh, sorry, Tammy.
Yeah, and I'm just counting down to them. It's Regina Fasano.
Okay, Regina, congratulations. Yay, everybody jazz hands for Regina.
And if I could just quickly add, Kara, I do have a 50% discount for my online course on empowering the spirit. And if people sign up for my newsletter, which they can by getting on my website, you'll get a free meditation on dancing with your fear. So
beautiful. That was going to be my next question is what's going on and how can people stay in touch? So that was perfect, Judith.
Thank you.
And I missed the discount, but you said there is a discount code?
Yes, there's a 50% discount code for empowering the spirit, which will really help you with 5D. It's kind of a primer for the next step. It's based on my other book. And it's a work at your own pace, pre-recorded kind of thing. But I do interact with students. I will answer when they post on the bulletin board, I will interact and help them along. So
beautiful. Wow, what a deal. Fantastic.
Regina, make sure to, I'm sorry, interjecting. Regina, make sure to email Judith your email address, your physical address for the book.
And I know Regina, so get a hold of me. Your address. Okay.
That's awesome. Judith Corbin, I just blanked out on your name. I'm so sorry. I just went boink. Judith Corbin Blackburn, author of a guidebook, Activating Your 5D Frequency. Thank you so much for sharing yourself and your work with us today. And thanks for the tips. I'm going to be paying more attention to that 5D experience. So moving on, you guys, next up is Carly. Carly Matamore is an author and spiritual midwife for our times. She brings deep compassion and love to her work as an energy healer, shamanic psychotherapist with over 30 years of experience, and shamanic breathwork practitioner. She's the co-founder of, oh, this is when I forgot to ask you how to pronounce it, Ahara Spiritual Community. I hope I said that correctly. Okay, good. Where she offers psycho-spiritual workshops and is the creator of the Shamanic Warriorship Path program. Carly is also a graduate of the White Lion Leadership Academy and practitioner training in Timbavati, South Africa. And along with Judith Corbin Blackburn, Carly is the co-facilitator of the Shamanic Multidimensional Mystery School, which is currently being offered globally. She is the author of Sacred Messengers of Shamanic Africa. Welcome, Carly.
Oh, so delighted to be here, Kara. Thank you so much, and to be with all of these people today.
What an amazing group we've got here. The energy is just palpable. I love it. And I have a special place in my heart for Africa as well. And we have friends in common there. But I want to show everybody the beautiful cover of your book and really jump in with Sacred Messengers of Africa. It seems like a really big topic. How did you jump into that and actually become an expert in this topic?
Oh, it's been quite a journey, and I wouldn't say that I'm an expert. I am in a place where I'm beginning to understand that animals and places, sacred places, and actually just nature itself has so much to offer us, and we are beginning to awaken to remembering the languages that and the frequencies that all of these things have for us. And so, for myself, it's been the journey of listening to the next right step for me. I can say that I started on my own personal work because I've got a lot of life experience. I have 5 kids and a blended family and a whole lot of history. And later in my life, I began to realize I needed to do my own personal work. And I worked with Linda Starwolf and the Venus Rising Association with some reluctance because my life was pretty darn good. I mean, I really enjoyed my life, even though there was many tragedies and struggles and hardships. There were so many blessings. But doing that work began to open the density in my own energetic field. And I began to, tune in more. So when I completed the shamanic training, which is the shamanic initiatory process through Venus Rising, I was there as a master apprenticing role with Andrew Harvey came. And he was the guest speaker for the Inner Beloved. And we were in a very, very small room. And I was curious about Andrew. And many of you may know him or not. He's a mystic, but he's also, written many books and has, deep personal work with sacred activism that he does. But he was speaking, and I knew a little bit about him, but I was sitting in the front row with him and he, at his feet, and he was talking about hope during a really challenging time in our world. And this was before, this was, 10 years ago, really, 8 years ago, I should say. It was about 8 years ago. So it was a while ago. And we were at that point anticipating coming into the kinds of struggles, challenges, opportunities, whatever we want to call it. Andrew Harvey is his name. And so he was presenting, and I raised my hand because I wanted to comment on something he said. And he mentioned the white lions of Timbavati before he actually called on me. And then he called on me. And it was like in his energetic field, there was the white lions, and it blasted my heart. I mean, it's like it was this just a shock of energy, and it just opened me wide up. So when he called on me, I was a puddle of tears. I could not even talk. But it was the work, the personal work that opened my energy field to be able to tune in to the message that was there. And then that led me to be able to be open to the messages that were coming in, and in a shamanic breathwork the next day, because I had no idea what happened to me. But it was in the shamanic breathwork process the next day that, the white lion, who's on the other side now and was at that time, named Mara, who is the white lion who is said to usher in this new age of consciousness, on the planet. And Mara came to me in the breath work, and an indigenous woman by the name of Maria Coso, known as the Lion Queen of Timbavati, showed up too. And I really didn't know that at the time. These just two showed up and showed me what it was like to be a lion. And it was so much tragedy. I couldn't hardly hold it or bear it. And they called me to go to Africa to be with the white lions. And so that started me on this journey to Africa. And of course, when you get a message like that, it's like, I can't do that. What do they want from me? How am I ever going to pay for it? And I just had to, it was a big, deep process for me to just trust that by showing up and going there, that it would all unfold. And it was a profound experience. I, was the last person to sign up for Andrew Harvey's Sacred Warriorship, and then that journey led me one step at a time. And in a course of like 6 years or 7 years, I was to Africa and the South Africa and the White Lions 6 times. I mean, I just was on fire. It's like something passionate opened up, and I began to tune into these messages, and it kept getting reflected to me that I would be writing a book. And I'm like, I never anticipated ever. I didn't think I could write a book. let alone have that impulse to write a book. But the seed was planted, and it was like they were mirroring to me what was already unfolding. And that seed kept growing stronger and stronger. And my time in Africa, both in Zimbabwe and to South Africa, increased. I was there quite a few different times and have since traveled to other countries. And I began to understand the significance of this place, and particularly this a longitudinal meridian, which we refer to as the 31st meridian. It's in its significance. So my own personal work began to very much correlate with an understanding of what Africa meant, and allowed me to tune into these frequencies and allow myself to be exposed to these frequencies of place, and understand that here was a macrocosm, a bigger picture understanding, a hologram of, because we are all that is. And this hologram was held inside of me. So the more work I did on myself, the more we heal the separation within our own bodies, begin to support the healing of the planet. And it was on this 31st meridian, which holds so many different sacred sites and so many animal messengers, very similar to what Tammy was sharing, just that the animals are holding it for us, helping us to awaken within our own selves, to remember, like Judith said, our 5D selves, to step into that 5D consciousness. I mean, there's a weaving here of all of our works.
So really doing the work on yourself is you up to having this, sorry, I'm noticing that my internet connection is bad. So I'm going to start over just in case it was all wonky for a minute there. What I'm hearing you say, Carly, is that doing the work on yourself opened you up to really existing on these multi-dimensions yourself, and being part of that whole process, and seeing how it's manifested outside of us on a global scale, as well as inside of us on a very personal scale. Is that right?
It's exactly right. So when we're doing, because when we hold these emotions of these traumas in our own bodies, it creates a density in our own energetic field. And we've forgotten our connection with all of life, particularly with nature, and we call it different languages. Actually, one of my teachers, Baba Mandaza Kantemwa, who's a shaman in Zimbabwe, he has shared that everything has a language, which is really a frequency, just like our own language has a frequency. We clear and process these emotions in our own energetic field. We begin to open and remember our sacred contract with all of life. We come into alignment. We connect with all of these sacred messengers. And just like the lions, we, as apex predators, begin to realign ourselves to the stars and to the earth, and begin to open our hearts, begin to release all of that bondage from our own traumas in this lifetime, as well as through our lineage. So we're doing some really big work on the planet right now, and we're healing so much to remember, to remember that everything is here on purpose, and everything has its significance, and each of us has a significance.
So who are the sacred messengers of Africa that you write about in the book?
All of these messengers that I write about in the book exist on the 31st meridian. And I just want to share a little bit about this, because those messengers on the 31st are connected. It's a longitudinal meridian. Like if you took all of Earth's, land masses and you made it one, like Pangea used to be, and you divided it right in half, that halfway point is the spine of Mother Earth. It's the spine of Earth herself. And that 31st meridian, you've heard of the phrase as above, so below. When you look up, you see the Milky Way, which is reflected on that meridian. And underneath it is it's the golden seam. There's the gold and all the other elements that are in this reflected. So the messengers are the animals that are on here that are helping us remember our connection to Africa. And so there is the lion, and the lion is so critical, particularly the white lions, who are these sacred messengers that have come at this particular time, returned to Earth to assist us in our evolving our consciousness on the planet. But it's not just white lions, but they're the ones that are on this meridian in a place called Timbavati, South Africa, and which means where the divine, the white lions came down, is where it actually means. But there's so many other sacred sites and messengers. The other animals, the elephants, walk the ley lines here. So they have messages for us. They keep our energetic meridians open on planet Earth, and they have messages for us. They are, they do it on the land. The whales do it in the waters. But guess what? This is something so exciting that I recently found out, but I haven't written about in the book, is that the whales actually came from this 31st meridian too. They find the whale bones that used to walk on the land are just south of Giza, where the Sphinx sits, and its paws are on the 31st meridian, this very ancient site. So there's so many different of the animals, the zebra and the vultures and the giraffes and even the mountain gorillas, which aren't in South Africa, but the mountain gorillas are on this meridian. So there's just so much, there's so many, and the sacred sites that are here are also giving us messages, because even like Adam's calendar, which is on this meridian, which is an ancient astrological calendar, the stones hold the frequencies and the vibrations and the history for us to connect to, whether it's through reading about it in my book or traveling to be with these, these sacred places.
Oh, I have so many questions and we just don't have enough time.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, Carly, is I'm going to have people who are interested in being in the drawing for your book, just type Africa into the comments and we'll get that started so that you and I can finish up our conversation here, because I have two questions I want to ask you. Number one, why is this so significant at this time in our planet's history? Understanding this 31st meridian, the sacred sites, and all of these sacred messengers in Africa.
We are in a rapid state of evolutionary change. Some say that we are actually evolving into a new human, to bring more of the divine human into our bodies. And these messages are so important because it helps us navigate these changes. It helps us to become more embodied and to carry a frequency that helps us remember our connection to all of nature and to reestablish a way for us to come back into balance with heart. It's really about this integration with the heart. But this is the time we are in, someday the 5th or the 6th most rapid time in Earth's history. We have come here for this purpose, to assist.
I love it. And for people who want to learn more about your offerings, your workshops, your classes, your work, how can they get in touch with you and stay in touch with you?
It will be in the chat, but they can check out my website, which is Ahara, which means to breathe, and it's AAHARA, spiritualcommunity.org. Or find me on Facebook under Carly Matamor, and also on Facebook is Ahara. And I am offering a Sacred Messengers class starting in February. It's a 10-week class in the evenings on Wednesday night. And you will receive a 50% discount if you sign up. So I'm really excited about offering it. It'll be the second time that we've offered it. And we go deep into each chapter and do the shamanic journeys. Linda Starwolf is my co-author in this book. And she has done some amazing shamanic journeys in this book, as well as shared some of her own story.
Oh, so there's so much richness in there. I could talk to you for hours about all this. Thank you so much, Carly, for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us here today and in your books. And do we have a winner?
We do. It's the first time the random number picker came back with number 1. So that's Jeffrey and Enrique.
Yay, Jeffrey and Enrique. Woohoo! Congratulations.
Yay, Enrique. Yes, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
So you guys send an email to Carly with your address and she will send a book directly to you. She will sign it and everything. Carly, one more time, just thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for interviewing me and giving me this opportunity. And thank you to all the beautiful people on today. So
awesome, beautiful. And we're going to now move to our final author of the day, Stephanie. Reverend Dr. Stephanie Redfeather is a divine feminine change agent and champion of empaths. She's the award-winning author of the #1 international bestseller, the evolutionary empath, and her passion is to help her fellow sensitive souls break out of energetic jail and become co-creators of New Earth consciousness. Stephanie is the founder and director of Blue Star Temple, an online resource for spiritual seekers to learn energetic skills, hone empathic abilities, access spiritual knowledge, and connect with cosmic consciousness. She is the author of The Evolutionary Empath. And I just want to say welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So I think that this is going to be super fun. I am loving your book, and I'm really seeing myself differently because of reading your book, because I never kind of labeled myself as an empath, but I'm like, oh, dang, I am. And that's why all that crap happened. So thank you personally from me for the insights. And I would love to hear your story of how you had that realization for yourself. How did you know that you were empathic and start helping people with that?
Yeah. Well, it started with my spiritual awakening, but let me back up just to kind of give some context to that. I was a very creative, intuitive child. My mom says I used to get up on people's laps. Like I could, like to hug them or somehow soothe them. It was like I had an intuitive understanding that something, was not right in their being. So before I even had language or any of that stuff, I would do that. And that still happens today, minus the lap part. I don't just crawl into strangers' laps, but I do have that innate sensitivity. So I went to a creative and performing arts school, like the TV show Fame. I danced, I sang. And then fast forward a few years and I got a math degree and went into the Air Force. So it's kind of like one of these things is not like the other, because I, went to an engineering school, became an Air Force officer, and I was in the Air Force for 10 years. And so when it was time to leave the Air Force, it wasn't so much, hey, I know what I'm going to do next. It's time to leave. It was this little calling in my heart that said, it's time to get out. What am I going to do next? And so I started my own financial planning business, which I promptly quit in less than 6 months because I hated it. And so everything it was like my life just blew up. And it threw me into this 5-year period of time that I have labeled the spiritual crucible, where I was just getting cooked down, transformed into a new substance. And when I got to the other side of that period of time and kind of stumbled out of the crucible and was like, whew, okay, the world is still here, I'm still functioning, I realized that I had wisdom, that I had an understanding. In the spiritual awakening, I came to terms with the fact that I was this sensitive soul. I invited the divine feminine back in. I mean, there's several major themes that paralleled in this process, but I realized that if I can make somebody else's time in the crucible shorter, less painful, if I can support them by helping to describe the really sort of intangible, esoteric, hard to grasp things that are happening at the subtle energetic level, then my heart compelled me to do that. And that is when I stood up my spiritual business.
And you have a very clear definition of what an empath is. And I think that's a word that kind of gets thrown around. Oh, I'm an empath, you're an empath. Yeah, we're all empaths. But you have a very specific definition of it. What is that?
Yeah. It's the only directive that my spirit guides gave me when I sat down to write this book. They were like, create a definition. I'm like, okay, no pressure. But I took data that I had gathered from years of doing workshops, and it just started organizing itself actually into 5 categories. And I do want to say that I'm not going to go into the entire definition here. I spend 2 chapters in my book talking about it, because there's multiple pieces and aspects to look at, and I break down these 5 qualities and give examples. And then I actually have a definition that is a paragraph long, because I just couldn't make it any shorter. It needed to be that long to cover everything. But what I want to share are the 5 qualities, because I think that is what is most accessible to people, where they can go, oh yeah, yes, yes. So the first one is our ability to merge with and absorb energy from, you know, any life form. And that comes from having a very open personal energy field. So when we're unaware of this, this is also the quality that causes us to be codependent, you know, to take on other people's stuff and feel other people's emotion and feel responsible for their things, because we don't know any better. We don't have that understanding of where we end and the next person begins. The second quality is that we have a highly sensitive nervous system. And so this is kind of a, well, duh, nervous systems are supposed to be highly sensitive, but it's like, for us, the dial got turned up to 200. So this is what can really lead to overwhelm and being just, you know, overwhelmed by, it could be anything, you know, whatever our triggers are. It could be sound, it could be crowds, it could be light, it could be scent, it could be any number of things. Because it's like, you know, just having all of these extra sensory devices, if you will, we just pick up on so much and pick up on subtle things that maybe other people don't. The third quality is that we have a sensitivity to energies around us and an ability to perceive and access information stored in the energy field of other, you know, life forces, if you will. And so this is what predisposes us to have, you know, wicked intuition, to be, you know, all kinds of professions, including medical intuitives and Akashic record readers and animal communicators, and, you know, people who have paranormal experiences or are able to tune into, you know, the unseen realms. All of those sorts of things fall under this category. So they can express very differently. The fourth quality is the premium that we place on peace and harmony. And that is in our personal energy field, it's in our relationships, it's in our environments. And again, if we're not aware of this quality, then it can tend to cause us to be doormats and acquiesce to what everybody else wants, because we don't, you know, recognize that there's a distinction between us and them. And the fifth qualities are big open hearts and a desire to serve others. So we show up on this planet naturally oriented that way. And if we're not careful, we put ourselves last on the list and our self-care goes to pot, and you know, we can become resentful and completely overwhelmed if we don't care for ourselves and manage those energies. And I just want to say also that you don't have to peg all 5 of these to be an empath. I don't have a strict definition, you know, where it's like, okay, take this cosmopolitan list, and if you get, you know, 10 out of 20, you're a mild empath, and 15 out of 20, you're a moderate empath. You know, I trust your heart that says, oh yeah, this resonates with me.
But it's a way for people to recognize all of these things that I didn't really put together in that way before. Those are all parts of me to varying degrees that I have and I recognize, and now I see it. You know, again, it's a paradigm shift, I think, where we can see ourselves just a little bit differently from having that very clear definition of those 5 qualities.
Yeah, for sure.
And you go beyond that. In your book, you give lots of practical tools for, you know, how do we work with this? How do we kind of survive as an empath in a very kind of sometimes abrasive world? But you go even beyond that into saying that we have a cosmic purpose in being empaths. What is that cosmic purpose?
Yeah. The long and short of it is that we are here to help humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness. And what is coded in that, if you will, is we're not crazy. We're not an anomaly. We're not a mistake. We are here on purpose. We show up in our bodies with a slightly different energetic physiology, with a slightly you know, different set of sensitivities, you know, predisposed to a slightly different value system. So we are the front runners. And there's a quote in the movie Moneyball that says, "The first guy through the wall always gets bloody." And, you know, God bless all of us here right now on the planet, because we are the ones that are the first ones through the wall collectively, breaking ground for the ones coming behind us. You know, so what that means is we show up on this planet most of the time not having people who understood us or knew how to guide us or knew how to tell us how to manage our sensitivities. We had to bump around, you know, in the dark, trying to figure it out. you know, we are the empathic Big Bang, if you will.
We're the pioneers, not
Yeah.
the mistakes.
Yeah.
I love that. What do you think are the most important tools that an empath can have in their toolkit to take care of themselves?
Yeah, I sort of tongue in cheek say in my book, the most important thing is boundaries and managing your energy. So it's really two, but they're so closely related. But you know, in a book, you have to be linear and talk about one thing and then another. But it's so important to recognize yourself as an energetic being and get to know that part of yourself so you can start to tune into it, so you can receive messages. You know, our body is intelligence, our energy field has intelligence, and so it's constantly communicating to us. And there's a lot of information there that can help us manage ourselves, you know, figure out where we end and the next person begins, understand boundaries, understand energy leaks. So to, you know, and clearing our energy field and managing the energy of our home. So all of those things in my mind are one big lump, but you know, I separate them out in the book.
So I think most people who are empaths are probably start out life not aware that this is actually a good thing, don't really know how to manage all of that. So just having that awareness, that ownership of yourself as being an empath. And then I think it's a whole other paradigm shift to go, wait, there's this whole energetic world that I've been tapping into that I didn't even know existed, but now I need to understand it in order to manage my energy field for self-care and my boundaries so I don't get bombarded. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and you know, it's just the way things are right now at our level of development, if you will, as a species, that you know, we tend to have the difficult traumatic experiences first, and then the healing comes later. You know, we have the ignorance, if you will, until we come out of that and awaken. And so it is most people's experience that we live from the unhealthy aspects or shadow aspects of these 5 qualities first, before we awaken to them and go, oh my God, I'm an empath. And what does that mean? And how can I start to take my power back and manage myself? Because these are actually gifts. And that's the point, is I want sensitive souls and highly sensitive people, and however you identify, to know that these are gifts. And I want to be able to, you know, help people shift from viewing them as liabilities to assets.
I love it. And I bet we have a lot of empaths. Oops, I just dropped something. We have a lot of empaths here on the call who want your book. So if you are one of those people who wants to be in the drawing, please write into the chat empath right now, and we will, I don't know what just happened. Joy Goodman, I'm seeing your screen for some reason, and I have no idea why. So I'm going to exit that, and I don't know where you are, Joy. Thank you. Are we back? Are you guys still here with me?
No, I'm seeing Joy Goodman's screen as well. So
Weird. Let me just see how.
with Zoom, I think that means you're going to leave the meeting yourself. But no.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for fixing that.
That was bizarre.
But I do see that people did get the directions to type in empath, and so we're all back and we're typing in empath, and somebody will be receiving this gift. And while people are doing that, Stephanie, can you give us your final words and let people know how they can stay in touch with you and sign up for whatever you've got going on these days?
Yeah, of course. So the final thing I want to leave you with is, you know, first of all, wherever you are in the spectrum of knowing that you're an empath, whether you just are learning and coming to the awareness, or you've been doing this for decades, there's always more and deeper. You know, our journey doesn't end. And so I also want to say, don't, the idea of, oh my God, I have this cosmic mission of helping humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness, that can feel weighty, like, oh, what am I supposed to do with that? That's a heavy mantle. Don't worry about it. Just be who you are, where you are. You don't have to go start a nonprofit. You don't have to become a, you know, a public activist. You don't have to do things on a big scale. You can make a difference in your own life. So things that I've got going on, as Kara mentioned at the beginning, all of these different places, your favorite bookseller where you can go and get different versions. I actually read the audiobook, so it's my voice you hear if you want to get that. If you choose to purchase the Evolutionary Empath directly from me on my website, you will get a signed copy with a personalized inscription. And then I've got a couple of other books that if you're interested in, you can package those together. You can find me on Facebook, and I especially want to invite you to my Facebook group that I just stood up a few months ago called the Evolutionary Empath Support Community. I'm very active, always, posting things and, encouraging a lot of involvement. For the next 7 days, you can take a 25% discount on my video home study course that's called The Art and Practice of Energetic Clearing. Tools and techniques for clearing self space and stuff. So these are vital tools for empaths, and you can use promo code empath 2020 and all that will get posted into the chat so you can grab that. So that's a 25% discount on that video home study course. It's self-paced. You go at your own pace for the next 7 days. And then do check out my website because I've got guided meditations and manuals and other books and all kinds of support tools to help you on your spiritual journey.
And that's at bluestartemple.org, correct?
Correct.
All right. And I think we have a winner, Tammy.
Yes. And I know Judith's going to be copying and pasting the info in for the winner, but it's Laura's iPhone. So is all it says. It's Laura's iPhone. So Laura.
What a lucky device.
Yeah. So definitely email. I'm sure it'll be popping in there in a second in the chat. Stephanie directly, and she'll get you your book. Congratulations.
Yay. Yes. Yay.
Laura.
Yay to the iPad. And Stephanie, Dr. Stephanie Redfeather, thank you so much for paving the way for empaths everywhere and giving us empowering tools and sharing a little bit of that today and sharing it as well in your really beautiful book. Thank you so much. All right, so you guys, we're at the big event. We have been building to this all along. Judith, did you have something to say? Did I see you raise your hand?
Yes, I really did raise my hand that time. I just want people to know that everybody is posted it. All the 4 of us are posted at least once in the chat, and you may have to scroll back through, but all of the information is there. Carly, I only got you one time. I'm going to put you on again. And so everybody should be there. I think twice if Stephanie did me twice. And so if you want to get a hold of us, you want to check out our website, copy and paste it so you have that. But there's a lot in the chat. So I just wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah, beautiful. So all of the information, all the contact information for all 4 authors is in the chat. So if you missed it as it went through the first time, you can always scroll back and get that information again.
Kara,
We are going
to interrupt real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
In case people don't know, there's a way to save the chat. So if you go all the way down to the bottom of the chat and there's the little 3 little dots and you click on that, it says save chat. And that way, if you don't want to scroll right now and try to find everything, you can just save it, pluck out what you need, and then, delete that document.
And you know what? I have all the information. I'm going to put everybody on there again. So there'll still be the last piece for the book drawing, but other than that, it should be easy to find all together. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Judith. So we'll put it all right there, nice and handy for everybody. And we're going to be moving into the grand prize giveaway, which is a copy of, I hope you have strong arms, all 4 of these beautiful books. You will get all 4 of them and love them. So if you are interested in that, we will give you a moment to write into the chat. Make sure that all of the, I'm just going to look and see because I don't want it to get all mixed up with all of the author information. Are we good to start typing into the chat, Carly?
Yes,
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hold on. Yeah, you can hear me. Yes, and I will be doing the grand prize drawing. So.
Okay. All right, we got our logistics taken care of. So if you would like to be in that drawing, go ahead and put grand prize in the chat. Carly's going to take care of that. And while that's going on, I'm going to do our final roundtable question, which is for me always one of the funnest things to ask a group of people the same question and see what perspective they bring to that question. So the question that I have for each of you beautiful authors is, what is your advice for somebody who wants to step more into their sacred purpose? And I'm going to start, I'm going to randomly start with Judith, because Carly's busy. I was going to choose Carly, but she's counting.
Okay, a few things. Trust in your intuition. If you're getting a call, you'll know it. You may not know all the specifics, but you'll be drawn to things. And then the big test is to activate courage. And before we can activate courage, we have to know what's scary. It's very unusual not to have fears when we're being presented with the sacred purpose, because it's asking us to stretch ourselves, to step out of our conditioned responses. So honor your fears. Fears are natural. And then activate courage.
I love it. Trust your intuition, recognize your fears, and activate courage. Did I get that right, Judith?
That's, yep, you got it.
Awesome. I love it. Tammy, what's your advice for somebody who wants to step into their sacred purpose?
I would say that remember to lean into the beings of light who work with you, and because they are around us. You know, when I got my sacred calling, it was immediate, but I had never in my entire life had something come through so clearly. So it can happen to anyone at any time. And sometimes it is a slower process, and that's okay too. It's one step at a time. So I think there's a soul kind of remembering that I think is important for people as well, to know that when you do sacred ritual, through daily meditation or prayer or whatever rituals that you create, that absolutely activates this sacred purpose within you, because it helps you get in alignment for the highest and best for your own soul. You're getting in touch with your own soul, who has all the answers for yourself, for where your purpose is, what your sacred purpose is. And I agree completely with Judith in that, you know, you'll never be fearless in taking those steps forward. You can, you know, you have to honor that part of you that has the fear, of course, and go at a pace that it can tolerate. But grab her by the hand, him or her by the hand, and say, it's okay. We're going to be okay. It's like doing that reparenting within, so that you can coach and appease that part of you that has a lot of fear, and say, you're not alone. We're not alone. And we're never going to be fearless. So let's just go through this together and take those steps forward.
Beautiful. Stephanie, I'm going to ask you the same question. What's your advice for somebody who wants to step into their sacred purpose?
Well, I absolutely agree with Judith and Tammy, and I'm sure whatever Carly says, I'm going to agree with that too. And to all of that, I would like to add, to develop a loving relationship with the concept of surrendering. Because let me tell you, I got 4 planets in Scorpio, so strong will is my thing and surrendering is not. And so when my spiritual awakening happened, it was like, no, la 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 la, you know, like dragging, you know, fingernails. And so I had to really, a big piece of it is learning to drop into the feminine, because I was very much in my masculine energy, Air Force officer, mathematics, all of that kind of stuff. And that side of the brain wants, you know, they want to know steps 1 through 100 before you take step 1. They want to, you know, logical, practical. Meanwhile, the soul's calling does not, the left brain goes, what are you talking about? To things that are more, you know, spiritual, where you have to trust and listen and work in that spatial non-linear sort of realm. And so surrendering is actually not giving up or losing. It is simply letting go and allowing. And that can pave the way and make it so much easier for us to receive this guidance from our soul.
I love that. I felt my whole body relax right as you said that. Thank you, Stephanie Redfeather. Carly, before we hear who the grand prize winner is, what's your answer to the question? What's your advice for someone who wants to step into their sacred purpose?
Well, first of all, to know that you are sacred purpose, that the moment that you incarnated here, you have been on your journey of being in sacred purpose. And part of the journey is that you're given so many different life lessons, and the clues are all there. I mean, what I've discovered is that the clues are all there from the very get-go. And as we do our own inner healing, we begin to recognize that we have been stepping one stone after the other from the very beginning. So trusting the process, surrendering, and beginning to pull those threads through. So whatever breaks your heart, whatever that you feel alive with, where's the passion? What are you drawn to? Where have you experienced challenges, and what is the medicine that you've gained from those challenges? All those are clues, to what we're here to do. And the more and more that we unfold, the more we step into our authenticity and just let go of anybody else's idea about who we should be, and we just honor our own journey and who we are, we activate that sacred purpose at a higher vibrational frequency. And here we are, we do it, one courageous step after the other, but the threads are all there. The weaving of our tapestry is, to trust that, because it's there. It's totally there.
Beautiful. Well said. Thank you, Carly. So Tammy Phillips, Carly Matamore, Judith Corvin Blackburn, and Stephanie Redfeather, really, really inspiring, beautiful answers for all of us on this path of how we can step more fully into it. And as our grand finale, Carly, would you like to announce our grand prize winner?
We have Barb on her iPad, who is our grand prize winner. Congratulations.
Yay, Barb. Awesome. Congratulations, Barb. And you can get in touch with Tammy and give her your address. She'll get everything to you. And for those of you who didn't win any of the books today, remember that all of the books are available to purchase on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, indiebound.org, and directly from the publisher, Intertraditions. And you get a 25% off coupon that you can use immediately when you sign up for their newsletter and emails. So you could get a big discount on all 4 of those books. So I just want to thank everybody for being here and being part of this event, everybody who is in the audience and all of our authors. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being pioneers. Thank you for coming back and helping us as we travel the same path that you have as well, your generosity. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Remember to always listen to the guidance of your heart and of your soul, because they know best. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye-bye.
I want to say thank you to Kara for being this.
Thank you, Kara.
Welcome.
All of you. Mwah.
Mwah.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. I stopped my recording.